So this came from Libs of TikTok. It says, terrifying. Child Protective Services showed up at this family's home and took their 14-year-old daughter away after the parents opposed her gender transition. The state took custody of the teen, and the parents weren't allowed to see her. They were also excluded from her medical care, and she was reportedly given vaccines without her parents' consent. This was not in California or New York. This was in Montana. So this is the article she clipped. But I went to the Daily Mail, and they also have a story about it. It says, Krista Kolstad revealed the family's nightmare began when they received a call that their 14-year-old daughter, Jennifer, told friends at school that she wanted to commit suicide in August of 2023. Later that night, Child Protective Services went to the Kolstad's home in Glasgow to inspect the house and interview Jennifer, later determining that she needed to transition to get better. Krista, who was Jennifer's stepmother and the girl's biological father, Todd Kolstad, said Jennifer had a tough upbringing and several undiagnosed mental health concerns, including attention-seeking behavior and lying, which they believe caused the urge to a transition and were overlooked by social services. Our daughter began demanding that she be called Leo, he and him. We explained that this is in her history, but not something we would agree to as her parents. The hospital staff ignored our requests, said Mr. Kolstad. Jennifer had first expressed her desire to change gender to her parents when she was 13. Her parents told her she was too young to make such a decision and sent her to counseling to explore why she felt that way. Mrs. Kolstad said it wasn't new, but she hadn't brought it up in a year. She never came to us and said, you need to call me this, you need to call me that. That was never an issue. Mr. and Mrs. Kolstad, who are Christian, let the hospital staff know of their objections and asked that Jennifer be called by her birth name. The hospital continued to call our daughter Leo, even though she's a minor, and after I stated it's against our wishes, our religion, and our core family values. The hospital told me to call their lawyer if I have an issue, as they will do what the patient tells them. While the medical transitioning of minors is banned in Montana, Mrs. Kolstad said the hospital told her that social transition was a gray area of the law.
What?
Jennifer was placed under 24-hour supervision due to her threats of suicide, but Mrs. Kolstad said an aide was placed outside her door who would regularly speak to Jennifer about having top surgery and how she was non-binary. Along with the Child Protective Services, Mr. and Mrs. Kolstad agreed that Jennifer would benefit from specialized inpatient treatment and counseling at a mental health hospital. There were 6 facilities in Montana as well as one in Wyoming. Mr. and Mrs. Kolstad raised concern about Wyoming as the state allows minors to have gender-affirming care, such as hormone blockers and surgical procedures. They were worried this may happen without their consent. But just hours later, Mr. and Mrs. Kolstad were informed there was a bed available in Wyoming Behavioral Institute and that Jennifer must go immediately. They stated they reiterated their concerns and said they had questions they needed answering before they agreed. 10 minutes later, Child Protective Services showed up at the Kolstad's house with police and papers, removing their daughter from their care, accusing them of refusing treatment. While Jennifer was in Wyoming, she was given men's hygiene products such as body wash and deodorant. After a month in the Wyoming facility, Jennifer was moved to a youth dynamics group home in Montana, where she has remained ever since. Here, Jennifer has been allowed to wear a chest binder along with only men's clothes, shave her head, and attend all boys groups. The Kolstads were assigned a public defender who advised them to play nice and go along with the Child Protective Services recommendations. We have followed their advice for the last few months, and now our rights are being completely stripped away. On January 19th, the couple lost custody of their daughter to Child Protective Services, who said that allowing Jennifer to be transgender is in her therapeutic interest, and that her parents are not following recommended therapy. Child Protective Services was given custody of Jennifer for 6 months. After that, the plan is to place Jennifer in the care of her birth mother, who now lives in Canada, but has never really been a part of her life. Mr. and Mrs. Kolstad have chosen to defy a judge's order to remain silent on the case.
Wow.
Wow.
That is just amazing. In the American press, they really do not report any of the underlying issues, any of the debate around this. Any article you read about something like this, usually in the American press, They're going to tell you safe and effective, safe and effective. American medical professionals and organizations all agree. What they don't tell you is that the American Pediatrics Association had to change its rules to shut down debate at its last meeting because a group of pediatricians tried to bring a motion to the floor to reevaluate transitioning children. They literally changed the rules to make sure that they could not bring a motion like that to the floor. They're also not telling you that in Europe, one country after another, where I think not coincidentally they have a not-for-profit healthcare system, they have been doing a meta-analysis of the data that these claims of risk of suicide and the need to do these transitions for the health of the child. They've looked into the data and found that it is extremely weak. Certainly not anything that would justify putting children in this position. People who come out and say children know who they are. I just want to ask, were you hatched from an egg? Were you a child? What the fuck are you talking about?
You know what they're saying.
And a lot of these kids have comorbidities. They have autism. Very often they will take these autistic children who we know that autistic people are prone to obsession. They get this idea in their head and they become absolutely convinced this is who they are. It reminds me of nothing so much as the Satanic Panic. And I think this is going to end the same exact way. Lawsuits. The lawsuits back then were about recovered memory therapy.
Remember recovered memory?
That's what it was. And same thing. All the organizations came out. All the authorities.
How dare you deny a recovery?
How dare you deny these claims?
I'm sure. I remember Sybil.
Dissociative identity disorder is very possibly not at all a thing. And therapists were very impressionable people they found. And Sybil's a prime example. It's really crazy the lines that were crossed by that person, their doctor that wrote the book.
Yeah.
They ended up living together. And there's a very impressionable people that when that book came out, I have it. I have dissociative identity disorder. And there was a rash of that. There's also on TikTok, there was a rash of fake Tourette's.
Of course. And back then, they didn't even have TikTok.
Oh, fuck shit, cocksucker, motherfucker. That's not true. Motherfucker.
Some of them are hilarious. The people that were like, no, I live with Tourette's. And this lady's hitting herself with a toothbrush. Just making people that had her like, that's not what Tourette's is. But it's a social contagion to impressionable people.
Right.
But, you know, the fake Tourette's, you didn't take any hormones that might alter the course of your life forever.
That's it.
Let her dress like a boy.
And the same with recovered memory therapy. Yeah. I mean, that was creating a lot of trauma. A lot of families were torn apart where people were falsely accused by their children based on this crackpot theory.
They put it right in your head.
Exactly. So there was that, but you're right. I mean, that's what's so horrific about it. England, they had to shut down the Tavistock Clinic. It looks like they're going to get sued by over 1,000 families that were treated at that clinic. You've had nurses and doctors come out talking about how they were pressured to go along with this, even though they kept trying to say, no, this is not appropriate. A lot of these children have other issues. That's really what it is. I would highly recommend 2 books on this. That you want to talk about book banning. For a while, they pulled this off Target. Then they put it back on. Irreversible Damage by Abigail Shirer, which is really about rapid onset gender dysphoria, where you have all of these teenage girls who never expressed any discomfort with their gender. All of a sudden, they're gender dysphoric.
Well,
and very much like this, where the medical system sucks these. You remember being a teenager? You're very impressionable.
Stepmom, Christian, mom in Canada has never been part of her life. So right there are 3 major details. You could tell there's something else going on that's leading to this attention-seeking thing. It's just, all this would be fine except for the part where you give them hormone, really like things that really can mess you up.
And it's still not really, it's still not really fine because once you socially transition them, that's almost always a conveyor belt to puberty blockers and to hormones. For a very long time, they were saying puberty blockers are safe and effective. And then the CDC actually had to come out and say, no, it isn't.
Well, I just thank God that the vaccines are not handled in this slapdash manner.
And that they're safe and effective. Another book I would recommend, The End of Gender by Deborah So. She's a sexologist. She has a PhD. She's been on a lot of shows. She's been on Rogan, I think, more than once. She had to leave the field because unless you go along with this shit, you're driven out. So when people say, well, these medical authorities all say, well, no, they don't all say. Anyone who won't go along, they get driven out of the field. That's why you only have people left who are going to go along with this.
It's horrifying. Imagine if vaccine worked that way, how bad that would be.
That would be terrible.
Someone, I texted this story to someone, and they texted me back, said history's not going to be kind to these people.
No.
And I said, well, I hope history is a 6'5" tough guy and actually beats the shit out of these people.
I mean, I don't even know. I think that's ambitious. That there's going to be a looking back point. What with World War III coming?
Well, you have Chloe Cole, who she's suing Kaiser Permanente. They keep telling us they don't do these surgeries to minors. They gave her top surgery as a teenager. They started her on a course of treatment when she was 13.
That's just a mastectomy, right?
It's a mastectomy.
Yes.
Exactly. It's the euphemism they've come up with.
That's the grossest
They started
part.
treating her when she was 13. She's suing them now. This is going to end the way the Satanic Panic did. But as you point out, look, the Satanic Panic, their bodies weren't destroyed forever. Their fertility wasn't destroyed forever.
I know, this is actually satanic.
This is actually satanic.
Wow. And at least I think at least now the tide has turned, and places like this show talk about this openly, and lots of other people now finally have found their voice and are able to talk about it. Like, I didn't know much. I remember the first time I went on Rogan and he brought up transgendered guys in transgendered
fighters,
females,
trans women fighting biological women in
yes,
MMA. Yes.
And I didn't know anything about it.
His point was only that the woman, the biological woman, should be notified and choose if she wants to do that.
Right.
Some women might want to, but she should get to know before she goes in, because that one lady got beat,
of course,
real bad, and that's what he was getting attacked for.
Right, attacked.
That he's
attacked
like phobic. Like, no, I don't have to tell you. Really?
I didn't know anything about it, and then I was just like, I didn't want it. That to me, that was like stepping on a live wire. What do I need? It's not my fight. That's what I think I said. I go, that's up to women. If women want to fight other trans women, that's up to those women. That's not my.
Yeah, that's what he said, and it wasn't good enough.
Oh, okay.
He said if those women want to fight them, it's up to them. If they said no, they don't get notified. She's a woman.
But if
no
women
advantage.
say no, which they are now saying, I don't want to compete against biological males. And then some people literally conflate that with Stonewall. They go, of course. So, like when that Riley Grimes was being,
Riley Gaines
was being threatened physically at that college campus where they had to call the cops and she couldn't get out. And I saw gay people or people who were on the side of the trans defending that, saying, well, that's just like Stonewall. Of course we have to fight back. No, that's nothing like Stonewall. Stonewall was when the cops were coming and fucking with the transgendered people, and then the transgender people had to fight against
gays.
Yeah, and gays. That's what. So they were being messed with. This is the exact opposite. This is the transgendered and the biological males going and fucking with women in women's spaces, and threatening them with violence. That's nothing like Stonewall whatsoever. And people who conflate that have a mental illness, or they're just blatant liars. And I think both. I saw one guy do it. He's our Amish friend, and he's got a mental illness and he's a blatant liar.
Oh, the Amish. When I said the Amish boys, right?
That's right.
That guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they all know the thing. You know, when you're like, hey, this is my fight. Women should say it. Everybody's got their own nervous Nelly. Here's one thing, especially now after this whole Gaza thing, I'm sick of the like, well, maybe we shouldn't talk about this. That's what that punk from Adam Ruins Everything did with Rogan, when Rogan made solid points. Why do the kids need to be on drugs? Let him dress like a girl if he's a girl. Well, and we shouldn't talk about this. Neither of us are trans. That's the punk ass way people get out to protect their livelihood or whatever the hell they're doing.
Well, most of the people pushing this agenda are not trans. Yeah. So maybe they shouldn't be talking about it. How many of these people are actually trans who are advocating that you should be putting a 13-year-old who's confused about their identity on life-altering drugs? How many of those people are trans?
They're safe.
Because there are a lot of trans people like Buck Angel, like Blair White, who speak out against this.
But these are all, the people that say this are on, I promise you, I'm thinking of dozens in my head right now. Almost all New York, some LA. They've all been on every kind of goddamn drug since they were 13. Luckily, they were born back before this was what you would do when you're 13.
Right.
But they were the first ones on SSRIs, the first ones that were taking Adderall as small children. They became 60 milligrams of Adderall. You know how strong that is?
Yeah.
To kids. So upper class twits have been drugging their kids with brain-altering, life-changing drugs for years. It's just now they chop your tits off too.
I thought that was a great point that Joe Rogan made in that interview when he said, well, the guest said, well, you know, I know a girl, she's identified as a boy her whole life, right? And Joe said, well, then if they already feel like a boy and they already identify, why you got to add hormones?
For a beauty,
Why
because
this
is the secret. It's all about passing. Yeah. All the politics really come down to passing.
That's right.
And what's the most important thing in America about being a woman, being attractive? That's why we have a beauty industry and a plastics and ethnic
it's not about passing. It's about profit. It's about profit.
I mean the politics of trans. Buck Angel comes off like a man. If you meet Buck Angel, like, oh, this dude's for real. Like the people that can't pass and they started too late taking hormones. This is what I've been told many times, asking why you would do this. So it's if you're trying to go male or female, it's your chance to be hot. To take that before puberty, so you could be the hottest possible woman.
So I was told by a gay friend of mine who have kids, they want them to transition before puberty,
so they're hot.
Right. Exactly, so they can pass.
Right.
So if they do that before puberty, they'll look like a female instead of a male who transitioned.
Well, and they did that to poor Jazz Jennings, and the result is Jazz Jennings will probably never experience an orgasm, because when you put a male on puberty blockers that young, they get a micro penis. The penis never develops.
Oh, it's worse than
so
that.
when they started doing those surgeries on her, there wasn't enough there to really construct anything. So they had to keep doing follow-up surgeries on this poor kid.
I remember
you look at listen, I got an eye for crazy, man.
She's coming out now complaining.
Her mother is a classic case of Munchausen by proxy. You see her talking about how when she was little, she said, I wanted to be a boy, and I burst out crying. Kids say all kinds of shit. You decided based on that to make your child a medical experiment?
No, I know a boy. I know somebody whose mom, just like that. In fact, next time I see her, I'm going to ask, because if she had come up when this was a thing, she'd have had a mastectomy.
Hey, come see us do a live stand-up show. We're going to be in Omaha, Des Moines, Milwaukee, Lansing, Michigan, Bend, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Philadelphia, Avenel, New Jersey, Boston, Palm Springs, and more. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets. See you at a live show.